Hello, this is DK. Welcome to the Wheel Print Podcast, brought to you by APM Medical Supplies. This podcast is created to uncover the inside game of adaptive athletes, their untold stories of what drives them and makes them tick. So be prepared to be inspired as we discover the trials and triumphs of the human spirit. Enjoy this show. I'm DK, and I'm the host of the Wheel Print Podcast. Today, our guest is Megan Blunk, a super soul, a super woman, a super elite athlete, wheelchair basketball player with a gold medal from Rio 2016. And she has been fighting her own battle with mental health for most of her life. So, today, I will not cover kind of the obvious. I'm not going to go deep into her accolades or her accomplishments. We're going to go deep into what we both believe is more important, and that is mental health and mental illness. And at times it could go a little bit dark, but we're always searching for the light. And that's our intent with this podcast. So we'll break this down into a two-part series, and we'll discuss mental health and all of its challenges and battles that Megan's life seemed to have all along the way. A beautiful woman with a powerful story to tell about her mental health in the hopes that it'll resonate with you, the listener, that you will share this to someone that you know might need to become more aware of what Megan has been through and her experience and what she's applied to manage mental health. So, Megan Blunk, welcome to the Wheel Print Podcast, my dear.
Thank you, DK. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Yeah, good. I hope Max is happy. I really want to give him some love out of the gate because in following you, he's not too far away from you very often.
No, he's always with me, and he's exactly everything I wanted in a dog when I chose him. I just learned that the other day officially because I wanted a dog that played fetch. And this is probably a reach, but I pictured him, if I'm doing a school assembly, that he would throw me the ball, we'd play pass. Like I was like, I can, he's going to be really smart and so playful. And he's the most playful dog I've ever met. Like he throws the ball to himself. And yesterday I taught him pass. I was like, pass. And he would throw it. And if it didn't come to me, I would show him my hands and he'd get it. And he threw it again. And I was like, how is it you literally are doing what I envisioned?
I'm not surprised, and dogs, animals in general are incredible. I just saw a YouTube a couple of days ago of a dog who had like a wiffle ball bat in his mouth, and his owner pitched him a ball, and the dog swung and hit the ball with the bat in his mouth. You know. So, but anyway, I paid attention to Max. I think he nuzzles in right under your chair. Do you have a little carrier under your chair as well?
Yeah, I have a net under my wheelchair, and I don't know how anyone lives their life without a net under their wheelchair.
Yeah, it's the catch-all for sure. We need something to.
Yeah, but now Max takes it up
for our critical stuff.
I can't put my stuff under there anymore because he's always under there. So I got to figure something else out.
Well, there you go. We gave Max some really good love here. So, Megan, let's just get down to it. Like, where do you want to take these next two versions of the Wheel Print Podcast? Where do you see it going just out of the gate?
Well, when you were doing the intro and you said to manage mental health. I want to like heal. Like I want to, I want to believe, I always believe in healing. And for anyone in any mental illness, like you do manage it with medication or with different treatments as you heal. But I want people to believe in the ability to heal and to not hurt as bad as they're hurting. I don't believe it's something that we have to live with, that intense pain. And I have healed a lot, and I have figured out what I'm facing, and all, I'm peeling the layers off. And I want to share the everything, the things I haven't shared before, and the things I'm scared to share and I'm embarrassed. And it's just about mental illness, about labels, about the real insecurities that I have. Like a lot of times I felt like I would disappoint people if, they want to hear about what it was like in Rio, or what it, winning a gold medal and all these great things. And all the time I've been struggling, and I don't want to let anyone down though. And so I don't really share what I'm going through. And I just want people to know, for those that are hurting in that way and feel scared, to be honest, I think you're the perfect person to share it with, because of the unconditional love and encouragement and strength that you give others. So that's what I want to do today.
Well, that means so much. And I use the word manage just kind of because that's my word. I think heal is your word. I can't use that word for you.
Yeah.
So either way, I'm so grateful we're running down this road, and you've started it off with great intent so far, and your openness and your trust in me is I can't tell you how much it means to me, but how much it'll mean to where we're going in the next 2 parts. So let's well, there's a start to everything, and I know your story, and I've studied you like no other guest, and I've been intrigued and attracted, and but let's start with your beginning, and tell us what perhaps your youth was like.
Well, before I get into that, and I share all of that, could we start with you telling what drew you to want to have me on? And it was, like what did you want to have me on for initially?
I just love how you're turning around and becoming like the podcaster right now. And it's cool because I've always followed you, and I'm not a big daily Facebook guy, but I often see your posts, and I see where you're at and who you're helping, and particularly as of late, I was attracted to your videos from Facebook, and that in itself just it captured me, and I kept saying, what's behind this? Why? And knowing some of your struggle, right? I'm not going to pretend to say that I don't know much about mental health and illness, period. But I know I've had my share of darkness, and but anyways, in your struggle, I was drawn to your light, and the fact that you were searching. I love that about you. That I could see you searching for a better version. And that's how I landed on you. And
Yeah. And the
yeah.
videos lately are of me doing all this yard renovation and but I like you've been a constant throughout since knowing you. I don't know how long it's been, a couple of years or like lot longer. But your constant encouragement, the little messages, and I share really vulnerable things. Like I share the really hard times because I want to share in the moment so that someone can go on that journey with me, and sharing it is like me saying, you know what, this is where I'm at, and there's nothing wrong with where I'm at. It's my journey, and people will love me, and it will be, and sharing it is just, I think, for me struggling with mental health, when people don't share about those times, you think that you're crazy, you're weak, you're too sensitive, and you just don't understand why. Like, why can't I be like everybody else? And why do I have to, like, it? You just need to know that you're not alone. Like, we are all struggling like this, or in our own ways. And your love has really helped me, because I hold on to that because of my struggle. It can be so intense, and it is scary to put it out there, but I have those pillars of strength from people, and then knowing that there is something behind this project. There is, like, I want to make my environment accessible and a healing place for me to be, and I want to show myself that I can make it better. And so I'm making a walkway to the house out of bricks, and I'm making a ramp into the yard out of dirt, and I'm digging up all the rocks so I can make something pretty with it. And that, I am finding myself through it, and I'm showing myself that you can make life better and you can heal. And before I get into the childhood stuff, I just want to, like, I've learned that I need to slow my brain down, and I need to limit outside distractions so that I can process and understand what and why something is hurting me. And then I can learn to handle it better. But when there's too much coming at me, I haven't been able to get a handle on it. My whole life, it was just too much. And the stress, the pressure of all the things I was doing in my life, like the USA wheelchair basketball team and going to college and being the first in my family to go. And all of that was so much pressure that it was putting my brain into this fight or flight. And that was causing me to spiral and live in fear and confusion. And so that all stems from the childhood and the way that my brain developed through trauma and those circumstances. And that's why I say heal instead of, for my word, because I used to not know if it was possible. And I was told that I just have depression and it's genetic, and probably gonna need medication. And like that, it was actually, it was a pattern that my brain was doing that was hurting me, because I was used to living in fear of what's going to hurt me next. And so that was what was causing the depression. And it was something I needed to recognize was happening to me, but I couldn't, because my brain was in overdrive all the time. And it's amazing to know what's hurting you so you can start healing. But when you think that it's just genetic, depression is just, you have it, like, that doesn't feel like you can heal from it. And that's scary, to not know why you keep getting taken down and how you're supposed to fight back. Does that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can really really relate. And for all of us that love you, Megan, we truly hope you do find healing you know, and, it comes down to, almost heal in your now, be in a place where your now is good. But the quest for balance for so many people is to do what you're after, and that is to slow the hamster wheel down, to slow the person down. I can so relate because I've been so, you might as well call it an addiction to succeed, achieve, do more, and do it forever. And when I saw you in your yard, I was jealous. I was like, wow, if I could just get to a place where I slowed everything down to the task right in front of me. And I see a version of that coming out of me, and you've been an example. 2023, that's my year, that's my goal. But anyway, yeah.
Doing the yard work, I zone in, and I am completely in the moment for hours. Like, it is so therapeutic, and I'm processing, and I'm moving forward. I don't know. There's something about it that is such an escape.
Yeah, well, you're working in the earth, your hands are getting dirty, your face is getting dirty, you're slinging. I mean, I would venture to guess you're in, as far as anaerobic shape, that you are in elite shape right now, because today's video was like these 20-pound bricks you were one arming and just going, you were flinging them to another spot so you could load them, I think, into your truck, and have to pick them up again. And so you're not messing around in the yard, and then when you put high speed on your video, it's just like steroids on the loose.
Yeah.
I love it.
I mean, moving the bricks from one side of the yard to the other, and having a disability, like being in a wheelchair and trying to wheel over gravel and carry bricks that like shove you down deeper into the gravel, and then one at a time. Like, it has truly taken me 3 to 4 to 5 times longer than an able-bodied person. And I'm really like learning to be okay with that. Like, it doesn't matter because I'm doing it. And even if it's just a little bit each day, sometimes I just go do a corner. I just go pull up the plant that was like going to push the sidewalk up when I put the bricks down. I did that last night, and it was just like, I got that done. And that means the next time I'll be moving forward more, and before it was like, got to do it all right now, or it's, not enough. And I'm learning that little by little, that mindset that everyone says is, that's what you got to do.
Well, I was going to talk about this a little bit later, but it's cool to talk about it now, because it's, again, your question is kind of answered by the fact that this part of things really did draw me in, but that, we can begin to meditate, in that doing the task. And I've seen you start in the day, and then I'm seeing you with some sort of light out there in the dark. So your days are long in that regard, but focusing on progress. And that's just kind of how I see you, right? What do I know? But when I'm seeing you on a video, I'm seeing more than you accomplishing what you want done in your yard. you know, the sequencing, the thinking, you know, it just seems to work for you, you know, and but it's very extreme. It's crazy extreme.
I know. I mean, I know. I know that. See, the hard part for me is that I think it's more extreme because I'm in a wheelchair, you know? So like I think that
Right.
really it's like, what is that girl doing? Like crawling across her yard multiple times, like throwing bricks across the yard, like over 1,000 bricks, like throwing them 3 different times to get them to where they need to go. But no one's gonna do it for me. And I want this accessible area, you know, and I want that freedom. I know the importance of it. And I know that if I can get this done, I will be set up to have a pathway to go and do the things I want to do. Yeah.
Your neighbors, I'd love to hear the combos they have in their homes after they do a flyby. You know, some of them probably know you very well, and that they just say that's Megan, and you know, but others are going, man, that girl's doing more than I could do with everything at my disposal. And yeah.
Yeah, I've had to work through that's a part of the process is working through that fear of what other people are thinking of me. You know, like it's like crazy that I worry that they think I'm crazy because I'm like, no, you finish it and show them that like you knew what you were doing, you know, because I do. I know.
Yeah. And you will. And again, I believe you're doing this for you. And again, you can't, how people perceive it, you know, that's what it is. And you can't control that. But most people, trust me, are going to be inspired, you know, and actually that you may, and don't feel bad about this, but you might make them feel guilty because they ain't doing jack, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've had so much good feedback and I'm glad I've been sharing it. I thought it was going to take like 6 days. Like I really thought I could do all of that and it's like 35, 40 now.
Yeah, I saw day 32, at least as far as Facebook and your videos go today. I was like, oh my God, who sticks to a project like that, you know, or, you know, call it what you want to call it, but that's putting in the time, you know.
Like the biggest motivation behind it is that I'm renting a house right now. And I had this amazing opportunity to be near family and the house needed to be fixed up. And so the rent is affordable and I get to work on it, which is something I really want to do. And my dad is nearby, so he can help me. But there's a lot of things about it that are not accessible. Like I made a video about transferring to the toilet and how I twist my ankle every time I transfer. And that's really overwhelming to me because you're twisting your ankle. Like it's so it's overwhelming. And then I can't get into the closet because it's like a long closet so we need to take this wall out. And the pathway, there was a brick pathway to the front, but all the bricks were broken up. So it was like really bumpy. And I had to do like a wheelie over it and try and carry something. And like every day it was overwhelming. And then with quarantine and I moved here in January of 2021. And there's a beautiful view in the backyard, but it's on a hill and there's no back door put in yet. So it's a big wall where I can't like see this beautiful view. And I can't get to the backyard because it's a steep hill. And I just felt trapped. Like I felt like I have this amazing opportunity, this beautiful place to live and the fresh air of Washington. And then I can't even I can't even see this view, you know, like the windows are up here. I'm in my wheelchair. Like and it's just everything about inaccessibility, like doing the dishes and standing up to reach the sink, like, and it just keeps weighing on you. And then with the crime that's been going on in Washington state because of COVID and the quarantine and mental health just, deteriorating in the drugs, there was a really scary guy that was in the area, and jails kept releasing him, and like he was terrorizing the neighborhood. And I couldn't even really go outside at that point. And it just made me feel so vulnerable. And I just wanted an area of peace and accessibility. And like, I wanted to feel safe, so I have this vision that I'm creating, and that is keeping me motivated because, well, the guy's, he's now in jail, but, so it's been good for a good amount of time now. But yeah, that's my motivation.
I think we should point out to listeners that if you're not friends with Megan, you might want to request. And if you're lucky enough to have that request approved, you'll see what we're talking about. She tells a whole story every time a video comes out, and there's really no words to describe what you do, Megan, and in that yard and what you're doing, because it really defies description. And I'm impressed and whatever by it. I like tuning in to see where you're at the next day. What's this girl doing now? And to see you move from sifting rocks, to God, you carried those monster boards that, I don't know, look like about 10 feet tall and, 2 feet wide.
Yeah.
They were monsters. But all right, so we know that you are totally tearing up your world in front, but and there's a purpose to it more than just access. Might be a driving force, but there's a lot more to it. And I invite everybody to try to check that out personally. But are you ready to dabble a little bit with your youth?
Yeah. So to get into the youth, so with this project, doing all of this stuff to work through so many things throughout my life that I haven't worked through. And that is what I'm doing. I'm showing myself that I can make it better, that I have choices, that, just to believe in myself and my vision. And growing up, I struggled up until now. Like, I had been struggling with this battle in my mind that I did not understand. I recently discovered that I have ADD, that's one of my strengths for why I have all this energy and I'm able to do so many things. But growing up, I didn't know that, because for one, girls don't usually get diagnosed as often as boys because we don't have that hyperactive, or we don't display it the same way. But in our heads, we're just overthinking, we're taking in all this stimulation. And so growing up, I was the middle of 5 girls. My parents, my mom dropped out of high school in 10th grade, and he graduated, and they ended up getting together. And they just had one kid after the other, 4 little girls. And then I had my half sister later. And they both worked in a bakery at the time, and we didn't have a lot of money. I don't remember the time that they were together, but they divorced when I was 4. And so I had all of my sisters were a year apart. So 2 older sisters and then my younger sister. And when they divorced, my mom struggled a lot financially, and having, 4 little girls following her around at the grocery store, just nonstop. It's a lot. How can you handle that many? And so we I feel like there were times, that we just weren't able to get the attention or the support that we needed to process or work through things. So that could be, the start of it. But then my mom remarried this guy a couple, like 2 years later or a year later. And he just swept her off her feet. And we had just been broke, watching our mom cry because she couldn't pay the bills, and like everything was chaotic, to all of a sudden have this guy come in and just like take us on, family vacations, and we're going camping, and take on 4 little girls is like a really big thing to do. Um, but and everything was just so good. And then we also started going through a custody battle, and it was a lot still, but there was also all that good happening. And then when I was in 4th grade, it came out that my stepdad was molesting my sisters, and I didn't really understand what that meant yet. I just knew that everything had changed just like that. I remember the day that they told our mom, and I remember him coming home and from this diving trip. He was a diver, and just after that, like it 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 just didn't make any sense, and nothing was being explained to me. And then over time, my sisters, they were becoming distant, and we were all kind of just trying to deal with this stuff we don't understand on our own. And then he ended up coming back around. We had a little sister. It was his daughter. She was like 10 years younger than me. And, and it's hard. Like, this is a part that I haven't shared, but my mom did say that she, understood someday I would share it, and I would share more of our story. But our mom was really confused, and she was struggling financially, and he was manipulative. He isn't the greatest person. But you can be so blindsided. Like, it's hard to fathom marrying someone and thinking you know who this person is, and then finding out they are not. They are I don't know, a monster. I mean, I don't know. I haven't been able to wrap my head around it still. I don't, but he came back around, and he was in the picture, and I didn't know how to feel. Like, I was confused because I didn't think he was a good person, but at the same time, I feel like I need to think he's a good person, because it can't, it has to, maybe he just was having a hard time. So it was really, really confusing to me. And that's hard for a kid to live in that confusion and try and make sense of the world. And it was fearful too. He scared me, like he was perverted to me too. I don't know what all happened for me. I was young, and I'm pretty traumatized from it, which I didn't know. And so with the ADD and the overthinking and then the trauma, it really, I just remember my whole childhood of just being in my head, just always being in my head, and always trying to figure out how to feel about something, or what was wrong, what was right. If someone's upset with me, if I can't trust them, I just started living in this thinking that people were either out to get me, or just that you can't really trust. Like, if you think they're your friend, or you think they care about you, it can just like that be like taken away, And so then, I was an athlete. I played all the sports that I could, that we could financially afford, but I was so insecure. I just could not figure out who I was. And I couldn't trust myself. I think that is the biggest thing, was that I didn't learn to trust myself through the situation with this trauma that was happening. My feelings, they didn't match up with the environment. And so something that I was going to share later as well, but I think I just want to share it now. And this is what I'm the most nervous about doing with this, but I want to share it, is I was told I always had depression, but I have learned for myself these last 3 years that what I struggle with, besides the fact I have ADD, is it's called borderline personality disorder. And the stigma with it is beyond horrible. And they're learning, and finally things are turning around, and all these mental health providers are like, we've been wrong all along. Like, these are incredibly loving people that are just, I mean, hurting. We're not that they're all loving, but like, we are immensely hurting, and our mind, it develops from growing up in constant trauma. So your mind being in a fight or flight, like, it's my amygdala just takes over so quickly, and it just takes me down. It's human nature to protect ourselves. And so naturally, if something happens, something traumatic, like our stepdad, our mind starts, it's like, you got to be alert. He's around, and you got to know, like, are you safe? Are you not? Like, tone of voice, like, you're looking at their body language, you literally are scanning the environment constantly in order to be prepared. Like, it's a natural state of mind, but we're not meant to live in it. We're supposed to have it to protect us. And then you get to safety, and you bring your brain back down, you do your healing, but my brain didn't get brought back down for, I was living in constant trauma, with the ADD, with the stepdad, and then with all the situations I kept getting myself into because I didn't trust myself. So I would get into bad relationships because my gut would say, no, this person's not treating you good. But then I would tell myself, no, you're just overthinking. You're just being too sensitive. You just need to chill. Like, and I just never could just know how to feel and how to make decisions and how to remove yourself from bad situations and know that it can get better. But all I knew was this one world, and it's hard to know what better feels like, and then it exists,
I'd like to take a minute to tell you about a company that's important to me and my wheel print. APM Medical has chosen to sponsor the Wheel Print podcast and my DK3 events. This is who they are. They give back to our adaptive sports world. I encourage you to look at APM to provide you with your personal care supplies. It just makes sense to support those who support us. Email APM at info@apm-med.com. Mention the Wheel Print podcast to receive your next order, how you want it, and when you want it. APM Medical is a small company with a big heart. Now let's get back to our conversation with our guest. Yeah, Megan, did better happen when you played sports?
Yeah, I mean, sports were like the one place that it just fit. It just, like, every time I played a sport, I was just naturally picked it up, and it was just like, it was great to fit into something, but at the same time, I felt like I just fit so well that it just, like, it became my identity. Like, that was how I felt, like, this makes sense. Like, this has a, the path, and I use them as a place where I could face all of my insecurities and try and, like, be stronger, like, learn how to, that was always, like, kind of what I was doing in them, was trying to just, I don't know. I guess I when I first was playing them growing up, I don't know. It was confusing. I was really good. I did enjoy them, but I was also so hard on myself and so in my head that it was kind of hurting me at the same time, because I just kept letting myself down, and I felt like I was letting everyone else down. And And with borderline, like, you have a really hard time seeing things clearly. And it didn't matter all the, the people telling me that I was such a good athlete, or they loved watching me play, or like I could only think about the mistakes that I made and that I'm actually not that good. And it was just a constant battle of trying to be good enough, but never thinking that I was.
If I were to relate on my own level, it would be, growing up in an alcoholic, broken home, where physical kind of violence took place, and what you talked about, needing to know your surroundings, what was the tone, am I safe, is he going to go off? I was the oldest, and I would almost feel the responsibility to go out and protect and kind of get my ass kicked, and so it was, I can relate to, but sport distracted me, man. It was like, yeah, sign me up because I want out of here, and let me stay as long. And I think training wise, even being gone to train by myself, I call it training now, but I was really just playing as a kid, and shooting and doing whatever it was. But it really it served to distract me from what was a lot of negativity and trauma and anxiety, mainly anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, always worrying about what's going to happen next, and even the passive aggressiveness, and like trying to figure out if someone's upset with you. That's one of the things that I've learned these last few years is, if someone's upset with me, then they can tell me. Like, they can tell me. I don't have to try and figure it out.
yeah.
Like, that's the whole, always trying to be ready though. Always like, it's reminding yourself that, like, even if you think they're being passive aggressive, even if you think that they're upset with you, they can tell you. And just, if you're not doing anything to hurt anyone else, my friend told me, keep your side of the street clean. Like, that's what,
Yeah. And look, I'm not, you can you tell me to pump the brakes at any time, but your injury, my injury came in our teen years. I had just graduated. I think you might have been a senior.
I just graduated.
Oh, you had too. So wow. And yeah, there's some parallels there because my choices were not the best. But anyways, tell us about that time in your life, if you're finished with where you're at.
Yeah, that was pretty much the childhood. That's all I really remember from it. Was that confusion. And then high school, I was in a bad crowd. Really, I was always running away from that fear that I wasn't good enough. I just wanted to not, I didn't want to have to face it. So if I didn't try, it wouldn't hurt as bad, that whole mindset. And so I goofed off in school. I just cheated my way through a lot of it. Like, because I was already falling behind. And on top of that, having ADD was actually why it was so difficult for me, and why I would procrastinate and like struggle so much. And so this kind of will help make even the accident make sense. I want to explain ADD really fast, like, because I didn't understand it, even though I have a master's in social work and like studied it too. Like, I had the whole mindset of, yeah, everyone has ADD, or if like someone I know, like if they have, my friend who has ADD, it was like, oh, well, his mom drank when she was pregnant, or like something that like people thought. And I really believe that ADD is not not an illness. I think it's just a brain type, and it's a fast brain. That's what they call it in Mexico. Actually, my friend told me they don't really use labels. They're just like, you have a fast brain. And I was like, that is the perfect description of it. Like, but with ADD, it's very genetic. It runs in your family, and like it highly runs in my family. Like my mom and dad are painting walls, like doing nonstop stuff all the time, like just constantly moving and doing things. And my niece, two of my sisters, my nephew, so many of us have it, and you have it or you don't. Like, and it is really difficult because your brain is going so fast. And so we have a low dopamine, and that's with ADD, you have low dopamine, and that's the reward chemical. You know, it's the motivation, the like, and people that don't have ADD have a level dopamine, like a level of dopamine. And when they have like small tasks to get done, you only need a little bit of dopamine to raise that, like, okay, if I do this, I get this reward, and like, you know, and you do it. But like with ADD, because your dopamine is so low, to get that motivation to do the task, to like execute it, you need something that really stimulates you. So it's like, that's why people with ADD are like new. And because it raises your dopamine up, and then it gets you motivated, and you're happy you're motivated. So you just like get going with what you're doing. But also we don't, like, we take in all this stimulation. And so a theory with ADD that I really like is called the hunter-farmer theory. And it's people with ADD are hunters. And so we take in a lot of stimulation, because we were hunting back in the day. Like, this is just a theory of where it comes from. But you take in all the stimulation because you have to be aware of where the next animal will be, you know, and you got to be able to hyper focus. So once you take it in, like, you can put all of your energy into going, you can go long hours without eating. There's just a lot of things. But with the farmers, they're day in, day out, long-term goals. And so that's like the level dopamine. And yeah, so we're different, but people with ADD run late everywhere they go, because it takes until the very last minute for that dopamine to raise up from the stress of like, oh man, now I got to get going. And then you get like everything done. And it's literally a thing. Like, it does not change. Like, I have tried so hard to not be late, or like I'll be like 2 minutes late, and then the whole time I'm driving there, I'm hating myself. I'm saying they're not going to keep giving you chances. Like, are you kidding me? And you're beating yourself up. So you have a lot of anxiety, and that's why ADD can sometimes show up as depression, anxiety, all these different things that get misdiagnosed, when really it's that you don't understand that you're taking in so much stimulation and that your levels are off.
That's so fascinating. And I think the way you've described it has helped the person who had no idea, you know, that all the, you know, that how complicated it can become, you know, but your understanding, your education that you've gotten from looking into the detail of it, I think it's important, and I'm glad you were able to explain it the way you did, and I know it's helped me, you know.
Well, thank you, because I was kind of worried that I was talking too much, but I'm so glad. I love that you like learning and you're interested in that. I appreciate it.
Well, you know, the selfish side of me, I can look back and know that, you know, I look pretty good on the outside because of what I did with sport, you know, but I got sport taken away in high school. I drank a beer at a summer party. Somebody ratted on me, and the coach kicked me off the team. And
that's not what
my whole identity was that guy. I was a ball player. I had no other mission. I had no other desire. That's who I was. That's where I got my ego, my whatever. And I begged to get back on the team, and it was a hard ass, and I found myself in my den with a loaded rifle and pointed under my chin. And there I was. I go, I'm trying to change the way I feel, and it was that heavy.
Because that was
Fortunately,
your escape. That like you had the alcoholic family and the home life must have been stressful.
oh, I had nowhere to turn to. A father that was disengaged and a mother who was trying to survive. All the trauma. We had 6 kids, so I found myself pretty much alone, and so I think all of us have something somewhere tucked away. I've never told that story publicly to anybody. So anyway,
yeah, I think it's so important to share it. There's some sweet little kids in the wheelchair basketball world that reach out to me, and they're struggling in their family life in those ways that you're talking about. And I think them hearing you share your honesty is very important for them. These kids are so strong, and I want them to know, like, you're doing great,
yeah, and that's where I think, at least to me, that's where you shine. And it's also like you're like working in your yard. Now you're working with these young souls and young girls and kids. And it appears, Megan, I can't put myself there, but it appears you're not going through the negative self-talk at the time you're like in that young girl's face, just loving on her. Right. So, I turned into an alcoholic, and what they say is nothing insures you more from taking that first drink than comprehensive work with another alcoholic. So exchange that to, nothing insures you more from negative self-talk than working with somebody in struggle or that you can help.
Yeah.
It goes both ways.
That's why you said you were in your AA meeting and it was insurance.
Yeah, it's an insurance policy. I don't trust myself today. It's a disease of the mind, and it's not understood. People still think you can will everything away. Like, dude, you climbed a mountain, you got 1 million gold medals. Like, what are you talking about? Dude, I'm powerless. I am powerless when it comes to that. And it's hard for some people to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I'm sure you're doing a lot of self-work, and you have, because like getting into trouble in high school, I went to AA meetings. I don't struggle with addiction, but I had to pay off the DUI, and just, I'm not proud of it.
Nudge from the judge.
But I loved those AA meetings. Like, I was like this 16, 17-year-old girl, like, just, I loved them. I loved talking to those guys and learning from them. And I was like, they are so real, and they just they know a deeper meaning of life. Because I think struggling with addiction, like, in order to stay sober, I don't know, but you have to know what is worth fighting for, like, you have to know why being sober and having these enjoyable, loving experiences is worth it over doing it.
I have a beautiful life because of it. And it took hard work, took willingness, and that was 11 years and some change ago that I made the decision, and my God, and it got me to where I'm at and the people that are around me. So Yeah, that's my side, but this is about you.
No. Well,
So,
were you drinking a lot in high school? Did you do
uh,
that?
well, now that we're there, I uh, I went to the mountains with two cheerleaders and a buddy of mine, and we were drinking.
How
Hit
old were
a
you?
18, 19, and hit a liquor store, stole some liquor. We were making Harvey Wallbangers. I have no idea why. The name, I guess, just sounded cool. But anyways,
Did you name it?
long story short, get to Elevation in Big Bear, California. We're going to rent some inner tubes and we're going to fly down a hill. And we did. And I was in a blackout. You know, the elevation took effect. I didn't account for it. I don't remember anything, but I hit a tree at the bottom of there were no parks or runs. There were just areas in the trees that you had a what you thought was a clear pathway. So yeah. So I drank then, and that consequence didn't keep me from drinking again. I matured into what I hoped I would never become, which was my father, except without the violence, But anyway, it's now a daily routine. It's a daily routine, and I've got to respect it, that it's a gorilla that always wants out of the cage.
Do your siblings struggle with addiction as well?
Some. Yeah. And my father passed away from it, and and we all love each other, but we're pretty twisted when it comes to communication. It's just weird. I'm envious of families that seemingly have it all going on.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I think that the communication is where generational trauma comes from the most. Is it's passed down through the way that we do or don't communicate. Like the the BPD, that's even, you can learn it from your parents if one of them has it. And it's that thinking, that mindset of, oh, they aren't responding to me because they don't like me, or just I'm not good enough, or the coping mechanisms, you monkey see, monkey do, and you watch the coping mechanism was having a drink all the time. Like,
all right. Well, 70s, 80s, that was a deal. There was such a openness to overt drinking, and nothing like today's awareness. Still is crazy out there, but at least more people are aware, um, and so anyway, but now how did Megan take her injury?
yeah.
How did first of all the cliff notes of how it happened, and how you recovered from it or are still recovering?
Yeah. Well, because I was so lost for so long, like I was always trying to find my way. I was fighting a battle in my mind like every second. It was the BPD is all good or all bad. Like there's no in between. It's yeah, and it's so
Okay, I'm sorry. BPD for
borderline
me.
personality disorder.
Okay,
But
okay, all
hopefully
right.
the name will be changed someday, but or we'll just realize that we're all just humans, and
We
like
are. Yeah.
But it is the name of a pattern of survival. And that is what I've come to terms with, is that there's stigma with it, but it is the name of the pattern that I need to undo. And that pattern is what kept me safe, but it's no longer keeping me safe. It is causing me pain because I'm living in that state. So through high school, I was battling it. It got, it was getting worse. I was crying all the time. I was just in anguish. And I would go do all these things. I'd play all these sports. And then I would go home and I would cry myself to sleep, and so then, that crowd I was in, it wasn't a good crowd, because the good crowd, I was scared of them, of not being good enough. So I would stay away from it, and I would just be with everyone else who's not thinking about their future. And it was not enjoyable. It was nonstop chaos, and getting in trouble with the law and making your life even more stressful and just hard and painful. So the accident, it was a month after high school. I was still trying really hard to figure out why I was struggling with depression so much and what I needed to do to not hurt and to make my life better. But I don't know. I thought I was figuring it out. Luckily, I ended up in that motorcycle accident, because I don't think I was. I think I would have taken me a long time to figure it out. And the accident, I was the passenger. I was a month after I graduated high school. And that accident woke me up, because for one, when you become disabled or when you acquire a disability, you don't have all these options all around you anymore, and those were kind of confusing to me. It was just I was good at every sport. There were all, I could do this, I could do that, but I'm in pain, and it was just too much. And now it's all taken away, all right, let's really think about this. What is going to make your life worth living? How are you going to make it better? And I always saw it as if it was digging a ditch to me. If you're with the disability, if you start getting a direction and you're digging that ditch to make that path, and then something else comes along, you're not going to just be oh, actually, I want to go do this instead. I was on a mission to get a full ride scholarship to a university and be the first in my family to go. And there was nothing that was going to change that, and it was because I had to dig deep after the accident, when I was filled with this immense regret for everything I had taken for granted. And I didn't even know I was taking it for granted. And I didn't mean to. The way I was taking it for granted was not believing in myself, not allowing myself to try and to fight through all of that fear and insecurity that was always holding me back. And I thought I was never going to get the chance to do that again. But when I learned about wheelchair basketball a year later, I knew it was my second chance. And I put everything into it, and there was no going any other way. And that was a guide for me.
That's a story we've heard and retold for many, many people, not to diminish your story, but, sport had that opportunity to really direct us into a path that we never would have chosen ourselves, but that we ended up, and we were grateful for it. So right here and now, Megan, I think is we're coming to the end of our first part one of part two, and of two parts. And so I want to say thank you for up to this point of just, a heartbeat that you let come out in your words. And I expect that we'll continue this on part two. And I encourage every one of our listeners to tune in to the next part of this just really interesting, complicated topic of mental health, mental illness, and Megan is going to help guide us. I called Megan the other day, the beautiful disaster, and I mean that with total love. But we've got another powerful episode or part to this episode coming up. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in with us on this particular part of the series, and be a good human being and do the next right thing. Thank you, Megan.
Yeah, thank you.
I hope you enjoyed today's show on the Wheel Print Podcast. I invite you to check out our other episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or on our website at DaveKileyDK3.com. Special thanks to Dromos Agency for producing this podcast, our lead sponsor, APM Medical, for their support, and Performax Wheelchairs, a sweet ride.